Yo, what's up? Give a thumbs up if you like this show. Give a thumbs down if you hate this show.
Hi everybody, welcome to Friday's maths lesson.
Do you know what's on Friday maths lesson? You gotta find out.
Say bye.
Bye.
Hi everyone, welcome to your maths lesson today. We are going to be covering this stuff here, Friday week 7. So we are looking at connectivity matrices still. This is the last part of connectivity matrices and it's exercise 9B.3. So let's get started. All right, so we've got a network here and we've got town A, B, C, D, E, and F. And what this network is showing is it's going to show you how train lines are connected between towns. So you can see here from A, I can get directly to B and vice versa. And what we are looking at now is we have been looking at your C matrix, so your direct root matrices, and your C squared, which is your two-step roots, and then your C to the power of 3, which is your three-step roots. Now we're going to be combining them together. So what we're looking at is the C plus C squared and C plus C squared plus C to the power of 3 as a matrix. All right, let's get started. So if we are looking at this matrix, this network, we can look at this network and we can make this connectivity matrix C right here. All right, we have done this quite a few times, so I'm not going to go over how we did it. But basically your zeros means that there's no direct root. Your ones means that there is one direct path between, this would be between A and B. So then what I think you should start to do now is when you are writing these down in your books and especially in your test is label what you put it in your calculator as. So I'm going to save this in my calculator as Mat A. So I've just put underneath C, Mat A. Then I can find my C squared, which my head's in the way a little bit. But same thing. If I saved it as Mat A in my calculator, I would just go Mat A to the power of 2. So I'm just going to give you a little refresher here on how we actually get these in our graphics calculators. So you can see I've gone into matrix mode. I've saved it in Mat A as a 6x6, and this matrix here is exactly the same as this one over here. So then if I want to find C plus C squared, I'm going to go Shift Mat Alpha A plus Shift Mat Alpha A to the power of 2 and enter. And this matrix here is my C plus C squared. And don't forget, if you want to save it, you can put the arrow, and I'm going to save it as Mat C. So then if I needed to go back to it, it's already saved in my graphics calculator. Okay. So if we are looking at our C plus C squared, why do we even need to use it? What help is it? Rather than looking at two separate matrices like we had before, I had my C on the top one and C squared down the bottom, this is combining it. And it's very helpful for stuff like if we're looking at, say this was a proposed train network from Aldinga to Seaford or something like that. And these were all the connections between the towns. What you can see here is this number 3 means that from town B to A, B, C, D, E. So from town B to E, there are 3 different routes, and they might be direct routes or two-step routes. We don't know, but there are 3. What it also shows me here, this 0, is between town E and A, B, C, D, there are 0 routes. So you can't get there from F to D, sorry. So from F to D, we cannot get between those two towns in either a 1-step or a 2-step route. So you can see there's a 0 here as well, a 0 here, a 0 here, here, and up here. And if this was a proposed train network, this would show inefficiencies, because if you can't get to certain towns on this train line, it's not going to be a very efficient system. Also, the threes, when you then start to get twos and threes, it means they've got an oversupply. So you can see here they've got an oversupply in connections between some towns, but then an undersupply in others. So then if we look at this a step further, I can have a look at my c plus c squared plus c to the power of 3. So that means I can get, now there's no zeros here, so it means I can get between all my towns in a maximum of 3-step routes. So I can see here to get from F to A, it would be there's one route, and because that was a 0 in the last one, I would be assuming that it's a 3-step route, because we've added in the 3-step routes now. Okay, hopefully that gives you a little bit of idea of why we are doing this. Now I'm going to do an example question. So I'm going to do in exercise 9B.3, I'm going to do question 4, and then I want you guys to do the questions that I put up at the end. All right, so a coach bus service is used to connect a group of nearby towns. The network alongside shows the services which currently operate. Find the connectivity matrix C for the network. All right, so you guys know how to do that. I'm just going to put it up here. This is my C. I am going to save it in my graphics calculator as Mat B. So that is part A done. Then part B says the service aims to ensure that people can travel between any 2 towns in at most 2 trips. So what 2 trips would mean, for example, it would mean A to B, B to C. That would be 2 trips. Use the matrix C plus C squared to show that this has been achieved. All right, let's do that then. So I'm going to show you on my graphics calculator how I did this. So I'm going to go to Mat B. I already have this saved in just to save a bit of time, but this is the matrix that we saw just before. So 5 by 5. So now I'm going to go shift mat alpha B plus shift mat alpha B squared, and I will get my new matrix here. So what we can see, if we look at this new matrix, which I saved as Mat C, we can see that because there are no zeros, that we have achieved this goal. So we can get from any of the towns, A, B, C, D, or E, to any of the other towns with at most two trips. So I just wrote something here saying the service has achieved their aim of getting between any 2 towns in at most 2 trips. We can see this because there are no zeros anywhere in the matrix. Cool. All right, let's have a look at part C now. It says, due to increasing costs, the bus company needs to cancel one of its services. Show that if the service from C to D is cancelled, the criterion in B is no longer achieved. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at our original matrix here, and you can just see I just changed that to a 0. And what I will do, I don't actually need to rewrite this in my graphics calculator. I can just, because I have this saved and I remember that it's saved as Mat B, I can just change this one element in my graphics calculator. So, and then I'm going to redo this equation here. All right, so if you can see here, I've actually still got all of this up on my graphics calculator, and I'm not going to change any of that. I'm just going to go into Mat B. It was row 3, column 4, and I'm going to change that 1 to a 0. So you can see row 3, column 4 right here is a 0 now. Then I'm going to exit out. I want this equation, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight it here and press enter again, and it's actually recalculated it for me because I've changed my Mat B, so it's redone the calculation with my new matrix. And what we can see is this little 0 here is going to mean that we don't get that criteria, because I cannot get from B to D now in 1 or 2 trips. So it means the criteria is no longer met. Then what it says for the last part is we want to find a service which can be cancelled while still achieving the criteria. So what I'm going to do is, basically what we need to do is we need to have a look here. If I have a 1 here, it stayed as a 1 here. So if I changed this 1 to a 0, this would change to a 0. So I actually want to have a look at one that has increased. So let me just delete these. So if I have a look at all these ones here, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and match them up to my C plus C squared matrix. So I really need my initial connectivity matrix and then my C plus C squared. So I need my matrix from A and my matrix from B. So I can see here that my 1 increased to a 2 here, my 1 increased to a 2 here, my 1 increased to a 2 here, and my 1 increased to a 2 here. So I'm looking for an element that has increased from A to B. So of these 4 possibilities now, we just did, in this part here, we did C to D, which is this one here, and we know that that one doesn't work, so that's not going to be an option. So then all I would have to do is the same thing that I did in my graphics calculator just before. I would keep everything saved. I would go into map B, because that's where I saved this one. I would make sure that I change this back to a 1, because obviously we had just changed it to a 0. So I'd need to change this back to a 1, and then I might try this one here. So I'm going to change this to a 1, and then I'm going to change this, swap it to a 0. And if I get my result matrix and there's no zeros, it means, yep, the criteria still works. If I get any zeros in the matrix, it means the criteria does not work. Then I'm going to go and try it for the other 2. So once I've finished and got my answer for this one, I change this back to a 1, and then I'm going to do row 3, column 5, and I'm going to change this 1 to a 0. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one here. And what you will find, and I'd like you to have a go at this as well, is that this one here did not work. It actually came up with 0, so it didn't meet the criteria. But for this one and this one, it did work. So we could say that service C to B or service C to E could be cancelled, and you would still meet the criteria that we needed right up in part B. And that is the end of the question. So now what I would like you guys to do is, I have given you 4 questions. Question 1 and 2 and 5 and 6. So I would like you to get them done in this double lesson. Then there's been a slight change to our topic planner, which I'll update in the OneNote. This was meant to be a student free day, but we didn't end up doing that. So what I've put this in as is a catch-up session. So what we can do is, if you are stuck on any questions that we have done in the past 3 weeks, be ready, know exactly what question you want help with, and then we can use that 45 minutes to make sure that everyone's up to date, so that we're all at the same point moving forward. This Thursday was meant to be sports day, but we had to push it back a week, so all I've done is just moved all the content up by 1 session. So we'll start dominance matrices next Thursday, transition matrices at the end of the week. Then we'll have a single lesson to finish content in week 9. We'll have sports day in week 10, and then, in Thursday of week 9, revision, and then we'll have our test on Thursday of week 10. Cool. Good luck. Email me or get in contact if you have any questions. Bye.